Hi, everyone. The universe has guided me to build a lot of character by losing my voice before coming on stage at an event like this. So I'm excited to get through this and walk through a pretty interesting case study. As well, I was to be joined by a gentleman named Leonardo, and he is not able to join. I'm just going to briefly play an explanation from him, giving context on why I'm alone. So just a moment.
Dear colleagues, this is Leonardo Valente. I'm the CPO of Infinite by LivePanel. As you might know, today I was supposed to present our case study together with Scott from Realeyes. However, just over a week ago, a violent flood devastated part of the city where I and some of my team reside. Fortunately, we are safe, contributing to the city relief efforts through data management and machine learning tools. I deeply regret not being able to join you for this presentation, especially because it shows with numbers what we have been experiencing as a company for more than 5 years and thousands of projects. That data augmentation is a solution to do things better for us and our clients. I hope you enjoy Scott's presentation, and above all, I look forward to reuniting with the beautiful SampleCon community in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. He said that better than I could. Really wish he was here, sending love and light to his community. I don't know if that was clear, but they had catastrophic flooding about a week and a half ago. But nonetheless, I am presenting our story. One other thing to note as well, just about my background, who am I, where am I coming from? I'll tell you more of this as it unfolds through the narrative of the slides. I am VP of Product at a company called Realeyes. We are a computer vision company. Actually founded in 2007, so I always joke, kind of waiting for this AI renaissance that we're in to catch up. For the past decade, the core business has centered around using proprietary models for measuring attention and emotion off of webcams and using those in the context of ad testing. We do a few more things in the context of the market research ecosystem as well that I'll describe, but I'll just say that's kind of the area of expertise that I'll be offering to this. And just a bit about me, I'm in my 15th year of product strategy and innovation leadership across a variety of domains: ad tech, martech, Internet of Things, the cloud, hardware companies like Lenovo and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. It's been a really fun journey that's led me in a variety of verticals, including market research. This is my second SampleCon, so I'm ramping up, learning, love everything I'm learning, all the people I'm learning about. An amazing community, amazing problems to solve. And I just have to say, shout out to SampleCon, because just as an audience member, watching this narrative unfold that you guys have constructed of the synthetic conversation, it's like watching a magician slowly unveil like a really cool story. So I am excited to contribute and move on from there and see what else everyone else has to say. So here we go. The context of this, we're a computer vision company, as I mentioned. We've been running an ad testing business for more than a decade as well. We provide a service we call AI data collection. It actually dovetails a lot with the conversation we just heard. One of the services or use cases for that AI data collection is helping some of the top consumer app companies on Earth build avatars. Through all of that work, we've had a front row seat at the challenges of data quality, bots, click farms, people lying about who they are. And as well, we've been potentially early to the conversation on the critical impact of what that means when that bad data gets into AI systems. I'm echoing a lot of what you've already heard this morning, but we've experienced that pain. It's led to our own internal innovation cycles on what can we do with this, building a bunch of tools that we've iterated on over time, and became such a problem and such an area of interest for us to solve that we ultimately built a Vision AI solution to address it, and that became an input to what I'm about to show you as a sort of mechanism to tell this story about synthetic data and what might be at stake if your seed data is not of high quality. Then on the other side of the coin, who you just heard from, Leo, who was not joining me, excuse me. He is from a company called Infinite. They are part of LivePanel. They are in Argentina. They've pioneered a machine learning based approach to this problem. They actually call it augmentation rather than synthetic data, so I want to make sure I adhere to that. The differentiation being Their methodology is tied to actual humans behind the scenes with the machine learning system they've set up. With this, they've already done 5,000 projects, and they've found value using this methodology of how they generate augmented data to solve for feasibility, completion, and data quality. So to say, it was a very natural meeting of the minds to collaborate on what I'm about to show you. The origin story is really in the past year, it really took off. But as I mentioned before, the first point is Realeyes' own very near and dear experience with the pains of what happens when you have bad quality data coming into your AI systems, whether it's the face models we're building, the AI data collection we're doing, or even a new synthetic product we released as well last year that takes 10 years of empirical ad testing data such that you can upload a video, we decompose it, break it down into all the different parts that we see inside of it using computer vision and other sort of capabilities, and then predict how an audience might respond to it. So again, we've had a front row seat to know that the stakes are very high when you're bringing data into these sorts of systems, and a lot of lessons learned on that. Then, as I mentioned, this is my second SampleCon. Last year, I started hearing on this stage, the version of it in Georgia, a lot of talk about synthetic data. It caught my ear from our own experiences at Realeyes, and really interesting learnings about, hey, there's an interesting opportunities, but also risks, and then dovetail that with what we've heard earlier this morning about perceptions of it as well, which then gave me kind of the entrepreneurial kernel, hey, I want to learn more about this. I think given our experience, understanding already the importance of managing the quality of the seed data that goes in, I think we have an interesting story to tell. So I started networking, trying to meet synthetic data companies. That led me to meeting Leo, a coworker of his as well, and some other team members at Infinite. We had this mutual concern about this classic term, garbage in, garbage out, and we were interested in collaborating on a case study that could tell the story. What's at stake if you do not control for the quality of your seed data? And then if you do control for that, how does it play out? So again, excited to continue here. The methodology of what we did is pretty simple. First off, two technologies came to bear. So the first is what I mentioned before. Quality issues were such a drag for us in our own business for years. We've been continually iterating on solutions. It led us to launching a product, very much an eat your own dog food moment, launching a product called Verify. It's an anonymous face verification check to validate personhood, uniqueness, and demographics. So those fundamental things. You're not a bot. You haven't done this before. And if age and gender is passed to us, we can validate that. That's part number one. The second part was Infinite's augmented data technology tied to real users behind the scenes and the proprietary system they built for that. So those two pieces coming together. The concept, if we look at that flow chart at the bottom, it started with raw data collection from an actual ad testing campaign conducted by Realeyes, where we deployed Verify in front of that, kind of like a gate, but it was not filtering anyone. So anyone who participated or chose not to participate ended up at the same target URL. And you can imagine by virtue of being presented with that gate and ending up in the target URL, the participants ended up, if you look on the right side of the slide, those three different flavors of quality, they ended up with a name tag, essentially. Everyone got the gray name tag, all combined, which I think would map to a total sample sort of concept. Those who are verified as humans, unique, and if age and gender is passed to us, we agree, they would get a green name tag saying acceptable. And those that we parsed out that we think were bots, duplicates based on face math matches, if you will, or misrepresenting their demographics, they got a red tag indicating fraud. And again, everyone still went into the survey, everyone still came out on the other side. And just to note, the all combined included those who opted out or gave consent but ultimately did not comply. So intentionally did not make themselves visible. So the idea, we collected that data set, all the respondents and what they ultimately did in the survey is tied to those quality segmentations. We gave that to Infinite. We then unfolded an analysis where we have interesting observations to show up next, but then Infinite then made their augmented data set purely focused on acceptable data, and then we have an analysis to show on the implications of that. So here, I just want to note, part of my other character building is Leo was going to join me on this. I am a technologist. I studied economics in college. I am not a market research professional. I did a first pass on insights on these slides. I walked through this presentation with my wife, and she's like, I'm pretty sure you don't know what you're talking about. So I was like, cool, point taken. So I've got a cheat sheet here. I am going to try to sound in a way that would be like what you professionals would say about this, in addition to what I put on the slides. So imagine we're at the airport right now. You've got your data collection from your campaign, from your project, and you're at the X-ray line, and we're saying, all right, I need to see what's inside that data collection. Or alternatively, you're like, hey, I did my data collection. There's it doesn't feel right, doctor, can you look into this? And he gets out the sonogram. That's what we're about to do here. We're going to say, cool, you did the collection. What's inside of it? So again, just to orient you to the colors you're seeing, the green is those that are acceptable. We've validated them for personhood, uniqueness, and demographics. Red is the fraudulent cohort, where we think it's inclusive of bots. It's duplicates where, based on their face math, we're able to say in an anonymous fashion, no, they've already done that survey. They're back again. And then the gray is inclusive of everyone. So both the acceptable and the fraud, but also those who did not participate or those who said they would but ultimately didn't comply. So to refer to my notes, to sound intelligent, as you see here, some attitudinal and behavioral intent metrics with some response distribution. I'm totally observing the classic sort of signal to noise problem, and I imagine you might be as well, where the fraud cohort and the total samples seem to be masking the true signal of that green cohort. And the idea that if we even go a little bit further, the all combined signal seems to fall between acceptable quality and fraud, creating this concept of like a diluted insight. So just kind of full stop, if I were to just say everything's equal, I've done my data collection, I'm going to now generate my synthetic data off the gray cohort, I'm intuitively, you might expect, I'm not getting the right story there. Another one that's interesting to note is this notion of the signal reversals, where for those bands of 0 through 6, the fraud signals are often even higher than the green cohort. So again, not getting the full story. Response distribution patterns, where the fraud bucket seems to have flatter distributions and maybe even counterintuitive patterns that don't necessarily make sense, where the verified cohort of green has more intuitive patterns that make sense with clearer peaks. And then this idea of the decision reversal point. Here I'm really bluffing. But the idea that scale points 8 and 10, you see the most dramatic divergence between the segments. And those are your top box scores, where you're really at risk of making the wrong decision. So I'll just say, the conclusion of this, it seems kind of intuitive after kind of putting this data set on the X-ray that it would probably behoove me to exclude the fraud and some of the chatter in the gray signal that ultimately doesn't dovetail to the truth of the signal I'm getting from that green cohort, verified for personhood, uniqueness, and demographics. So next, the premise was to give this to Infinite, and they generated an augmented data set, and that is now the blue one. The idea, first, we have the signal preservation. We are closely mapped to the tracking with the verified respondents, missing out or avoiding the distortion that we talked about on the last slide of the fraud and the dilution in the all combined. And then just generally getting a validation that, as you would expect, by generating this synthetic data off of the green, I would be able to map closely to that. Getting top box consistency, dimensional stability, scale consistency, and not seeing that noise that you saw available in the signal of the fraud and the all combined. And then just going a little bit deeper with the validation of that, of what this meant with the integrity of that augmented data. So really we want to pay attention to the first column and the last column, but I'll note the arrow on the second column as well. The idea, if we compare that first column, which is the acceptable cohort, and then the last one is the augmented data set, labeled total LP here, that's inclusive of the acceptable cohort and the augmented data generated with it for a total N of 203. The idea being first that our quality controlled seed data did yield a robust stability of that augmented data that maps very closely to the original acceptable segment. But then as well, noting that when we filter down for age and gender, so that second row at the bottom, and seeing again the left column being the acceptable band and the right column being acceptable plus the augmented data, seeing that in that subgroup analysis, we maintain the signal consistency without having noise come back. And then the arrow is just noting how in that fraud column, we do see that we're generating a nodal impact on the general distribution of a sample without quality measures. I had to write that down and read it a few times. I still don't understand what I'm saying, but I think I got close. So all to say that by controlling the seed data, being able to preserve the quality of the actual outputs and having signal integrity even when you're filtering it at different levels of granularity. So all to say, the key takeaway is, what does this mean? As we noted, as Realeyes has learned firsthand, and as we try to enumerate here with that kind of X-ray view of the data collection, including fraud in a mixed data signal will likely tell an incorrect story compared to what you'd expect of that verified target population. Your acceptable quality signal would you expect to map to the desired signal you're trying to unearth there. And as you would expect, controlling for the quality of that seed data using, just as an example, the methodology you saw here, would reduce the synthetic noise you would typically see had you not done that. So seeing opportunities around a better ROI for using this, just tied to the survey data we saw even earlier, you can imagine this sort of mindset into generating synthetic data as a way to sort of assuage the skepticism or the fear around this, and just seeing potential for a lot more approaches in other data domains, as I mentioned, working in a variety of different applications at Realeyes, but other domains as well, where it's very relevant to think about the integrity of what you're feeding into these AI systems. I am 30 seconds short, but I think that's a good stopping point. Thank you very much.